Before you start your next project, visit my website and check out my professional woodworking plans. The detailed instructions, along with material lists and free video tutorials on YouTube, will help you build a project that will last a lifetime. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the shop. If you've been watching my show for a while, you know that I'm a big fan of veneer, and I've used veneer in a lot of projects here on this channel. So I'm really excited to now be working with GL Veneer. I'll have a link to their YouTube channel in the description below. A lot of great content, so I hope that you'll go over there and subscribe. And in this box are two sheets of veneer. One is Claro Walnut, and the other one is Quarter Sawn White Oak. And I'm going to let you decide which veneer I use on my next project, which will be a chest of drawers. And then I'm going to treat this video like a Veneer 101 class. And that way, by the time I post this chest of drawer video, you'll know everything you need to know to build a veneer chest of drawers for yourself. So let's go ahead and open up this box and take a look. This is actually in here pretty good. So I'm going to use a razor knife. I'm going to carefully cut right along this corner here. Okay, so this is some really nice looking stuff. This walnut is just amazing. The figure that's going on in it. And I like them both, but I have a feeling most people are going to want me to build it out of walnut. So let me just talk about how I use veneer and how I've been using it for the last 25 years and haven't had any problems. So essentially, when you build a cabinet, you're building a box. It depends on how fancy you want to make that box. The nice thing about using veneer is you can build the box with plywood, and then you don't have to worry about expansion and contraction. So that gives you a lot of freedom with design. And with that box, you can put the box on a base. You can do all kinds of cool things with maybe a smaller box. Then you have the cantilever, which creates an energy in your design. And this basically represents kind of what I'll be building, which will be a chest of drawers. So the first thing you need to think about after you build your box is if you're going to use any kind of trim to cover the end grain. So generally I'll make trim that will measure 3/4 or whatever the width of the material that I'm using on my box is, and I'll band the edge with that. So I'll cut the molding at say 1/4 inch by 3/4, maybe a little bit heavy, and then I can sand it flush with the plywood. So now that you've got your box and you've banded the edge and you think that you're ready for the veneer, the next step is to fill any imperfections, because the veneer is very thin and it will telegraph any imperfections up through the veneer, and you'll see them in the finished piece. So for any filling, you're going to want to use Auto Body Bondo. It's not very difficult to use. It's a two-part system. It dries really quickly, and it does have a strong smell, so wear a mask, and you should always wear a mask anyway, then sand it really good. Once you've got your box trimmed over the edge grain or end grain of the plywood and nicely sanded, the next step is to cut your veneer to size. And I like to cut the veneer about, I guess, a 1/2 inch heavy, because I want to have a 1/4 inch overhang on all 4 sides. So if the box measures 12 by 12 inches, I'll cut the veneer 12.5 by 12.5 inches. The order of applying the veneer, so let's say that in this case, we're also going to veneer the back. The first piece of veneer would get applied to the back. Obviously, we're not going to do the bottom. The next piece of veneer would get applied to the sides, and the last piece of veneer would get applied to the top. To make sure that you're able to place the veneer without misplacing it, contact cement will not stick to anything that doesn't have contact cement on it. So what I like to do is have a few sticks like this handy, and I'll place them on the cabinet once the contact cement is on there, and that way they don't stick to the cabinet. And then I'll place the veneer on top of the sticks, and then I can kind of look at it, position the veneer, and I'll remove one stick at a time, kind of working the veneer from one end of the cabinet to the other end. Since I mentioned that we are basically doing one side at a time, in this case we're doing the back first. So what you're going to want to do is get your veneer on the back, and you're going to have it placed. You can use a J-roller to make sure that you've got a good bond everywhere. Something that I've been doing recently is using a piece of wood. I'll take the sander, break the edge so it's not sharp, and use the piece of wood, pushing it in the direction of the grain, starting from the center, working my way out to the edges, and making sure that I get a good bond. You really put your elbow grease, put your weight into it. It's really important that you get a good bond between the veneer and your substrate. So once the back is done, now you're going to want to trim the back, and to do that you're going to use a flush cut bit in your router. So you got to be careful here. You got to make sure that you're comfortable using the router. You might want to have a big base plate on your router so you don't tip the router. There's really no room to screw up in this case. And you'll go around, trim your veneer off with the flush cut bit, and then you'll take the sandpaper and you'll kind of go over and just make sure you remove any of those fibers that are left from your flush cut bit. Since your back is done now, you'll go ahead and repeat the process on your sides, and then last you'll do the top. The other thing that I really want to mention is, since veneer is very thin, you don't want to go crazy sanding. You shouldn't really hardly have to sand this at all. It's already got a sanded surface, so I wouldn't sand it with anything lower than 220, probably 320. So you can go ahead and use the orbital sander with 320. Don't go crazy. You can use 320 and kind of break some of the edges, but you don't want to sand through the veneer. That is like the worst thing you could do. My suggestion, if you're going to start a veneer project and you've never built anything using veneer before, make a little box, make something simple, because that way if you screw up, it's not a big screw up. And I think that you'll get comfortable with it very quick, and you'll realize that it really expands your design vocabulary and your building vocabulary, because it just kind of opens up a whole new world of design. If you like mid-century modern furniture, if you like Danish modern furniture, all of that furniture is generally using veneer in some part of the build, usually the larger part of the build. So I have a few pieces of Danish modern or mid-century modern furniture, and generally the box and the top and the doors will be veneered, but then your drawer pulls will be solid wood, or the base that it sits on will be solid wood. For me, it's some of my favorite furniture is made out of veneer. So I hope you found this helpful. Let me know what you think. If you'd like me to build this chest of drawers that's kind of in the works out of the walnut or the white oak. I'm looking at them both. I'm almost thinking maybe a combination of both. But let me know in the comments below. As always, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.